Gewaltig. Sagt der Heilige Mishnah. Lefnei Ideen shall oivdei gechaven. Before the Yom Tovim, we can call them that, of who? Chagus is Shalom. Before the Chagus of oivdei gechaven, Shloish Yom, 3 days before, Oster Losseis Veloseis Imoen. There's actually a big shadow to show like we learned yesterday what that means. If it means to buy from, if it means to sell to them, and what you're taking from them is money, or it means to buy or to sell. Lahashilon, to lend them, Kalim Velishtamen, to lend from them, to borrow from them, Lavoisim, to lend them money, Ulalavois Mehen, to borrow from them, Lapoiron, to pay them back, Ulaframen, to receive payment from them. You could accept payment from them, but they nobody likes to pay up, everybody likes to take, but nobody likes to pay up. They told him, Sure, it hurts right when you're paying, but Lamaisa makes you feel much better because you are freeing up from debt. So therefore, you shouldn't do that. There's two svaras that are mentioned either because you don't want them to go and thank their God. I was able to have this benefit or that benefit. That's one reason. Another reason mentioned is it's l'feiver, it's helping them be over an aveir that they're not allowed to do, is Avoda Zara. There's other svaras, such as Rebbe Tam learns, the only thing you're not allowed to do is sell them something they can be directly makriv to a Zara, like selling them an animal. And that's only there as it is. Zok Gemara, Rav Ushmu, Chatani Idehen with an aleph, the Chatani Idehen with an ayin, they both mean the same thing. Before the days of Avoda Zara, of the opta for their Avoda Zara, but there was a shaila to be goes to word with an aleph or the word with an ayin. Mandatana idein loy mishtabish, mandatana idein loy mishtabish. Either way, it's not a mistake. They're both correct. Mandatana idein with an aleph loy mishtabish. The chsiv ki karv yoy medam. The day of the crash of their getchkes are coming. Umandatani edein loy mishtavish. With the ayin is the chsiv v'yitnu edein v'yitztaku. And the Gemara learns now that what it's saying is the getchkes themselves will come to say testimony that they served them. Hashis al kadaitach the covering chsiv, referring to the getchkes themselves. The muyim etama yitnu oivdik echavim edeim. Where you think in the end of times the getchkes that they served are going to come and say schos for them. They did avodah zara. They're not going to help them. The goyim are not going to be helped by the avodah zara that they were so dedicated to all their lives. Zog to Gemara, umandatani idehen, my time aloy tani idehen. Why didn't they use the ayin? We have psukim that support both ways as referencing Avodah Zara. So the madam who learned it with the aleph, why did they learn with the ayin? Amalach is taver odef. If we're talking about getchkes Avodah Zara, we'd rather talk about kikor of yom beidam, the day that they get destroyed. Umanda tani idein, my time alo tani idein. The madam who used the ayin, why didn't he use the aleph? Taka gutaina. If you're referencing Avodah Zara, reference the time that they're getting destroyed. Amalach man kagor lahu tavra. What caused that the goyim should be destroyed? Eidush sha'idu ba'atzim. Or what caused the Avodah Zara to get destroyed? It's the eidush that they said. So one gives priority to the result, to the destruction of the Avodah Zara, and the other one gives priority to the cause behind the destruction. Hilchach eidush adif. Freit Gemara, v'hai yitnu edeim v'yitztagu. I think you have wrong shot in the pasuk. We learned Yitu Edim V'Yitztaku means that the Avodah Zaras, do you expect Avodah Zara to come and testify to your benefit? But that's not pshat in the pasuk. V'Hayitu Edim V'Yitztaku is ba'ovdik chavim ksiv. I'm sorry. V'Hayitu Edim V'Yitztaku ba'ovdik chavim ksiv. Is that talking about that the getchke is going to come and try to say good for you? That's not true. Habi Yisrael ksiv. The way the pasuk is read is Klal Yisrael is going to be Yitnei Dem V'Yitztaku. Thank you very much. The Amar Reb Shua ben Levi, Kol mitzvahs she Yisrael oisin ba'olam hazeh, all the mitzvahs that Klal Yisrael do in olam hazeh, ba'oisu ma'idos lahem la'olam haba, will come and say testimony. The mitzvahs themselves come and say testimony about the Heilige Yid that he did those mitzvahs. Shenemar yitnu edein v'yitztaku elu Yisrael. So you see clearly from Reb Shua and Levi's uptouch and apostle that it's not referring to the Getchkes edein, it's referring to the mitzvahs that the Yidden do. Yishmer v'yomer emes, which is the next words, which are the next words in the pasuk, that's referring to the goyim. That even the goyim are going to be moide. Yes, it's true the Yidden did these mitzvahs. So the mitzvahs will come and say Eidus Toiv on Klal Yisrael that they did all the mitzvahs, and even the goyim will say yes, Klal Yisrael we can say testimony they did all the mitzvahs, even though we tried to stop them. That I just added. El Amr Huna, Marid Rabbi Shua, Manda Amr Edein from a different pasuk. The pasuk with the ayins mechacha. It says, Yotrei Pes al Kulam Toyu. Those who created the Getchkes are all nothing. The Chamudein Bailu Ilu, and the thing that was chamed by them, their Avoda Zara, will not help them in any way. They deim him. And they will be the Rashi Ve'deim Hema Rashi Avodah Zecham Tavoy V'Toid Alevdel Lechayvim Ve'deim Hema. Their Getchkes will say testimony about them to condemn them. So this is another pasuk where it uses the word Edeim with an ayin referencing Avodah Zecham. Okay, Zok the Gemara Vacha Darish Rab Chanina Bar Papa V'Tem Rab Shlomoy La'asid Lavai. In the times that we're waiting for already. Maybe HaKadosh Baruch Hu Sefer Torah. What? We're almost there. That's right. Maybe HaKadosh Baruch Hu Sefer Torah. Rebbeinu will bring a Sefer Torah. Umaniach bechelka, and will hold it in his lap. Well, Omer, and I'll say, me she'asak ba, that those who are Isaac in the Torah, Yavai v'yital scharai. They should come and get their schar. Only people who are Isaac in the Torah. So who comes first? Miyad miskaps in the boy and Ovdi Gachav and Bervovia. All the goyim come in a mob. We kept the Torah. Shenemar kol hagoyim nikbetzu yachad. Amar lahem HaKadosh Baruch Hu is going to tell them, first of all, everybody line up, come in an orderly fashion. Don't come in a baholo. Al tichmusu lefanai bervovia. El tikonis kol uma v'uma v'sofer. Each nation and its chachamim should come separately. You should come one at a time. Don't just all mob over here. It says in the pasuk, in this same pasuk that we were referencing, but yes, let's look at the whole pasuk because we're going to dash in the whole pasuk. It says, "Kol hagoyim nikbetzu yachtov." So that the Gemara says in Bervuvia. But also the is the Rebbe tells them, separate yourself according to nation and your leaders. Mi bahem yagid zois, v'yishonish yashmienu. Yitnu edeim v'yitziko. So this is where the goyim Avodah Zara are going to come and say that they did Avodah Zara. V'yishmu v'yomer emes. So I just want to focus on one thing. He said, "Mi bohem yagid zois." We said the Kodesh Baruch Hu is going to hold a Sefer Torah in his lap. Where do you see that? Merubas in the pasuk. We're going to soon see it. So "Mi bohem yagid zois." Zois is referencing the Torah. Why is Zois referencing the Torah? Because Zois has a connotation. This is it. This is it forever, because the Torah will never change. So let's see what the Gemara says. V'yesel le'umim, which means individual nations. How do you know le'umim means nations? It means kingdoms. This is when Rivka went to find out what's going on in her stomach with Yaakov and Esau. Well, you think HaKadosh Baruch Hu can't see each individual clearly, even though they're all coming in a mob? Look, Rashi, the fourth line, Rashi. HaKadosh Baruch Hu could look at each one individually in one flash. We say that on Rosh Hashanah. So why would HaKadosh Baruch Hu need them to come in an organized fashion? It's to help them, not to help HaKadosh Baruch Hu. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wanted each nation to be able to properly and clearly articulate their case. So they shouldn't get mixed up, and they should present their best case. The lishmu my the amalahu, by hearing what other people are saying. So Rashi for the Rebbeinu Shalom, it doesn't make a difference. Avolidatu, where the nation's coming to plead their case, Mahanya Irvuvia de Mevavali Umisatmi Tainusayam. They're not going to be able to articulate their argument well. So Hashem said it's easier for you to present your best case to me if you come separately, each nation, you don't get mixed up with what the other nation is saying.
Stand to attention.
They could be all to attention, but they're not separated by nation.
No, exactly.
They're not separated. No, the point is they didn't come each nation separately. They were all lined up. The pasuk is in Yeshaya. So tomorrow, miyad nichnesa lefanov malchus roimi tchila. So who comes first? Malchus roimi. We're going to soon see why it's Malchus roimi who comes first. My timer, mishum de chashiva. They are the most choshev. What makes them so choshev? Uminalo de chashiva. The chsiv, it says in the nevuah that Daniel was deciphering for, I think it's for Belshazzar. He talked about the malchios that were going to come to the world, about the four animals that he saw, that which represented four malchios. But toichel kol ara, this nation will eat up the whole ground. They'll literally destroy the world and eat up the world. B'sidushena, it'll grind it up. It'll crush it. It'll thresh it. B'sidukena, it'll grind it up. In other words, the Romans literally consumed the world. Amar Rabbi Yochanan zu roimi chayeves. This is roimi chayeves. Why did they have this suffix of chayeves? Zok Tosfos, the top Tosfos says roimi chayeves from the chsivahu the kari lechem gvul risha. They were referred to a wicked, destructive kingdom, and Russia is a targum of chayava, guilty. The nimtze b'ma'aser Merkava, they're found in we find in the Ma'aser Merkava. So they're called Risha, but they're also condemned to destruction. They're known Shima. Their reputation is known in the whole world. Their influence. Oh, thank you. That's a better word. Uminalon, the man the choshev ayil bereisha. And how do you know that the most choshev nation in the world? How do you know that they're the ones who are going to be confronted or come into the Rebbeinu Shalom first? Kidei Rab Chisda, we know it's from Rab Chisda. Rab Chisda, melech v'tzibur. Whenever there's a melech and a tzibur who are waiting for it in Torah, melech nichnas tchila, the melech comes first, ladin, to come to a beis din. Shenemar lasos mishpat avdoi u'mishpat amo Yisrael. First comes the Eved Hashem, the king, and then comes Amo Yisrael. So similarly, the greater nation comes first. The time of mine. Why does the king come first? Iba Yisema lav oirech ara lamesev malkim avroi. It wouldn't be respectful if the Besdin was paskening on Din Torah and the king is waiting there in the waiting room. The king doesn't wait in the waiting room. Iba Yisema mekame de leifush charoinaf. As the Kodesh Baruch Hu is paskening on the people, he's getting angrier and angrier because of all the averes that he's learning about. It's not geschmack to come in at the end when the dying's already angry. It's always better to come to the Rebbeinu Shalom early. That's what they're saying. The best thing is to do tshuva already in El. If you wait till the last second, by then the Kodesh Baruch Hu is kavayachal a little bit upset at all the averes that he encountered. Yeah, okay, so we can just talk yes, that's right. The boy say, I don't know how you could say that. First, virus, because the Shabbos we do all our virus. I get the same with can we come into achievity? So farm the tita virus after Chashmin. Okay, very good. Remember, you're going to regret it. The boy say, "Mekamed lebesh choyna." Amalam Hakadosh Baruch Hu. Hakadosh Baruch Hu said, "B'maya saktem." You claim that you were Isaac in Torah. Exactly how were you Isaac in Torah? Amam lefanav. They tell him, "Rebbeinu Shalom, look at what we did to build up Torah. Harbe shivakim takninu. We opened up marketplaces. We're responsible for Amazon that gave Klal Yisrael parnasa. Harbe merchatzois asinu. We made all our big Olympic pools. You didn't know can get a mikveh. And harbe kesef v'zav hirbinu. Look how much gold and silver we amassed. V'chulam lo yasinu. You know why we did all these things? Ela b'shvil Yisrael kadeshi is asku b'Torah, only so that Klal Yisrael would have the resources that they need to be in Torah. Okay. Amar lam HaKadosh Baruch Hu shoytim shavolim. Idiots, what you are. Kol masha sisam l'tzarech atzemechem asisam. You made it for yourself. Tikantim shvakim. You made shvakim. You know why? Not to help the Yidden make parnasa. Lahaysha ben zoynais. So you can have zoynais over there. So you could be indulging in your affairs. Tosfos says Avoda. That's not why they did it. That happens, of course, but they really did it for their own business interests. But we want to be megana them. We want to make them a vuza. So that's where the Gemara raises that they made the shvakim only for the purpose of loishav and zoynus. Merchatzois, yeah, merchatzois. You made bathhouses la'adim b'atchem to be able to pleasure yourselves, and not to help Klal Yisrael. And kesef v'zav, which you didn't make, that I made shaliu. Do you have somebody who's a magid zois, meaning who learns Torah, who's machshav Torah? Once HaKadosh Baruch Hu asked them that question that they had to answer. Biyad yotu b'pachei nefesh. They went out avel b'chafui roish because they didn't have an answer. Regan Alam Aforshim, the Ben Yayod asks, what do you mean shoitim shabayim? They're liars. They're outright liars. It's not shoitim. They're liars. No one's being fooled that they built these things. L'tayvus Klal Yisrael. So you're just up there plain shakrin. Look, the Ben Yayada. They said no. Forget we was Altkei L'Shem Shemayim. Why? Because when we built all these things, we thought that not we didn't do it to help them learn, but would motivate them. Klal Yisrael was going to say, if we're showing they have such benefit and such wealth, and that would motivate Klal Yisrael to do it. So sure, we made it for ourselves, but we also wanted to make them jealous, so indirectly. So what the Ummah was timing is we're not mamish liars. Indirectly, what we did directly impacted their drive to learn more Torah. And that HaKadosh Baruch Hu said you're shoitim, because you didn't do this at all to promote Torah. Because if you did, you would have learned some Torah yourself. If you really had an interest in promoting the Torah, and you're telling me this was like a backhanded way of doing that, then you would have had some shaykhs to the Torah. And since you didn't, you're a fake, phony, and a fraud, and you're a shoita for thinking that I would believe your nonsense. What? Or if they would show some chashivas towards Torah. Well, first of all, there's design mitzvahs b'denoach, which we're going to talk about. But we're going to soon see, Mati's asking a very good kasha. Why is it a time on the going that they didn't learn Torah? They have a chiv to learn Torah, they weren't makabel to Torah. The Gemara is going to get to that. Very good question. You hear Mati's question. You can't mun them for not learning. You're wanting to go, you didn't learn a brisk. I'm not a brisker. Right? Zog to Gemara. So who came next? Next was V'nichas Tamachos Pras Achareh. I'm sorry? Persia, that's right. The Gemara is going to ask, after Persia saw what the Romans' fate is, why would they have thought that they were going to fare better? My timer, they're the next in the pecking order. Then I saw another chaya. This is Daniel talking. It looked like a bear. The Tanya Yosef, who is referenced by the bear, Elu Prasim, these are Persians. They eat and drink like a bear. And they have layers of fat like a bear. And they grow hair like a bear. The Ein Lahem Menucha Kadoy. And they have no menucha because bears are always wandering around doing things. I'm sorry? Yeah, but besides that, when they wake up. So, Toysus asks, isn't there a nation that's compared to a lion? Isn't a lion the king of the beasts? So why would we say the bear is the strongest chaya? If anything, it should be the lion. So Toysus says some interesting facts. about the animal kingdom. So let's see Tosfos, the fourth Tosfos on the daf, the Aruchaya. So I'll just go to the teretz. The Yeshlomer, the Aval Gab, the Ari Melach, even though the lion is the king of the beasts, the Komokim Doifu as Yoser. A bear is more bold. Let me just see what the test says.
You just said that Rome was the greatest. They're not the greatest, right?
Rome wasn't. I don't know.
It says, Buddha is going to stay till almost immerse in
We're going to get to it in a second. What's that? What's happening to what?
They should be an Ari. They should be a lion. Lion is the king.
So that's Tosfos kasha. I thought king is the best, but it's
No,
not
but
true.
they're not the best. So I don't understand the kasha in the first place.
No, they should be before the other nations because Rome wasn't Ari. Rome wasn't compared to the Ari. So once you're
Yeah,
getting
we
into
said-
once you're getting the animal kingdom
You
in,
said that the Rome was first because they were the greatest.
right? So they maybe they
So
were
they're
above
not
the animal
greatest.
kingdom.
They're not the
No,
greatest. They're not
No,
the,
no, Rome would be the greatest. They're above the animal kingdom. Okay?
above the
Yeah, they'll be above the animal kingdom. Yeshlomer the Avagab, the Ari Melach, Mikomakim Doivu Az Yoser, Ubal Tachbulos. A bear also plans things. It almost makes it sound like a bear is like a smarter animal and knows how to plan things. It knows how to get into your food, into your garbage, no matter what.
But in the Zara, took the as a sick in here. So
What does that mean?
He's more schooling.
He's more dangerous. It's a dangerous animal because it does more. The perkama de brachos, kabitzaros archoinos, mishakach, the later tzaros causes the earlier tzaros to you forget about them because they overwhelm them, they eclipse them. Hiniach ma'isari v'siper ma'isadoiv. We stop talking about the re, talk about the doiv. The doiv seems to cause more damage. The Bavel and Nimshal Ari. Bavel is not compared to an Ari because that the kash is why isn't Bavel, who's Nimshal Ari, why were they first? Is that Bavel, even though it's like an Ari, which is the king of the beasts, it's not always Nimshal Ari, only in certain stages of its development. Only at that point they're Nimshal Ari, but not permanently. While the Persians are permanently Nimshala to a doiv. Va'ata himam locha shvela. But pras gam ata hi chashuva acharoimi, it's second most choshev to Rome. V'tamoid b'chashivusa ad samuch labiyas hamashiach as we will soon see. Persia will remain in its strength until right before Mashiach comes.
No.
Okay.
This is Rome yet, and this is Persia.
They're all good questions that we'll have to.
Okay,
I'm going to leave Moshe Sharf to determine how that's going to work. Okay, talk to the more weiter.
So, Yosy, just a question. What's the metaphor to hair? What's wrong with his hair? Shemisarblim kiseyar. How did you translate that?
No, misarblin and say are two different things. Misarblin babosha means they're very fat, and they're all hairy.
So what's wrong with hairy? Not that there's like we're trying to criticize them, or we're just trying to point out they're black. They're blacker than black. That's it.
No, Cyrus in the Tanya. Come on, you know Cyrus.
Maybe that's what Akiva was trying to bring out. What does the Tanya say Cyrus reference?
What is hair?
Yeah, Chaim is saying that Cyrus is something that the Tanya.
Yeah, because the way it grows, that's why we have to cut it at certain places. But that's Hasidic pshat. What's Pashut pshat?
What says tight? What do you mean? Chassidish pshat, that's a pshat. I don't know. You make it sound like that's an alternative. So what does it? What does that mean?
They don't cut it. I guess Megadlin Ser Kedoiv is that they just keep letting it grow.
Come on, the chip is.
Oh, so the Cyrus referring to klippah. Oh, so they're full of klippahs. Okay.
Yeah.
The ein la menucha, and they don't have menucha kedoy. I want to reference what David Zolti said yesterday. Is that a long time ago Romans took over the Persians. But we're going to get there in a second, and when we get there, then I want to discuss it. Then Hashem asked the Persians, so what were you, Isaac? We built bridges. They were known for building bridges. We conquered many countries. Krachs are big cities. We made many wars. You know why? We built nuclear arms only for the Jews. All of our nuclear ambitions, we sacrificed a whole country for the Jews. I think that's emes. Kadeshi is asking with Torah so they should learn Torah, because how do we fight the Goyim? We learn Torah with another nuclear threat. We double down on our learning. In the Mir now they have 24-hour shifts, so that 24 hours Torah should be learned. So we mamish did it for the Jews. I guess the Iranians caused more Torah to be learned than anything else, so they have a good time. You know why? So that you can collect tolls. You can have a lot of people with which you could take advantage of and force them to labor for you. Milchama wars you made, and Yosy, I made milchama. So this war is not a war between Israel and Iran. It's the Rebbeinu shows milchama. Klub yesh magid. You have Jews. They say, sure, to the Turk Arta. Shenemar mi bachem yagid zois. They zois al Torah. Shenemar v'zois al Torah. Shesam Moshe miyad yotzu milafana v'pachin nefesh. They also get shot down. Break the Gemara. V'chim yachid chazus malchus pras l'malchus roimi v'loy mahanya v'loy midi. Once the Persians already saw that the Romans were shot down and their arguments were exposed as fake, phony, and fraudulent, that they had no intention for the good of Eden and for the good of Torah. My time Ayla. Why in the world would they put themselves into the hot seat? Army, they said, Inu Sastri Beis Hamikdash. The Romans destroyed the Beis Hamikdash. That's why they don't stand the chance. That's why they were shot down. But Vanan Banina, Persians built the Beis Hamikdash. So they thought that would be their free ticket. The problem was that worked well in that generation, but that's not something that will gather them forever. Because Tosha says that's something that was a schus in one generation. But what do you do generation after generation? What gives you the argument that you should be able to stay around? Okay, let's have a look.
This is the dry time that the master from like the ointment. This is the dry time. En wat gezegd, kijk, ze gemaakt zoveel geschoren, ze gemaakt zoveel. Die draait aan. So
that's right.
Hashem knew what Hashem is going to answer.
I hear.
Het gezegd altijd.
En ook gelet de gemoede.
No, het gewist de gemoede vader gemoede gestemd.
So the Tosha asked the Vizkasha, but non Baninan, we built the Beis Hamikdash. So frekt Tosha the Vizkasha. Had like Amr Shabon the Beis Hamikdash. Kishashal Bahen Bamasaktim. That would have been a great answer. We built the Beis Hamikdash. The Teresh Lefizeh. That would only be a schos for that generation that built the Beis Hamikdash, because all of your generations, what did you do as a nation to promote the Torah?
They didn't build it; they only did the permission.
There was a chelos bone. So Dr. Gemara, Umay Shna. I'm sorry. And then every nation came in with their slot, and they thought that they would maybe be successful. If they saw Rome fall and Persian fall, what made them think the other nations that they would stand a chance? My time Aili. Hanach ishtabdu Yisrael. All these nations oppressed Klal Yisrael. But the other nations, they didn't oppress Klal Yisrael. We didn't oppress Klal Yisrael, and therefore we should be able to succeed in din. So why is it that the two that were specifically listed off to discuss the conversation was Rome and Persia? How come we don't hear the details of the conversations in the listing of all the other nations? Gemara, these are the most significant malchiyos mishum dahanach moshki b'malchusayu ad the osi mishicha. Their malchus will remain powerful until Mashiach comes. And this is where we have this Tosfos. Moshcha malchusayu ad the osi Mashiach v'hodam rinon asida pros shatipol b'yad roimi. The Gemara tells us that eventually Persia will fall in the hands of Rome. Hainu samuch l'biyas HaMashiach. That's right close to biyas HaMashiach. Kidamrinan asida malchus roimi. Al Olam, the Romans are going to spread, their influence will spread to the entire world, Tisha Chadashim, for 9 months. So David said that happened 2,300 years ago. So could you elaborate on when that happened? I don't know my Navi.
it's not a Navi, but there has been the Persians were at war with the Greeks, and the Greeks beat them and the Romans beat them, and that was the end of their empire. As a matter of fact, Alexander the Great, he conquered Porus, and since then nobody's heard much of them until recently.
Until the 70s.
And they can't call them an empire, okay, because they had one country. It's not an empire, it's one country
They're supporting
They have
Lebanon, they're supporting Gaza, they're supporting Yemen. Their tentacles have influence in a whole bunch of circles.
just in the last few decades. That's it. They were nothing.
They were dormant for a very long time. They were
Yes,
nobodies for a long
like
time.
for thousands of years, nobody's heard of them.
Constantinople,
And now, okay, so they had some influence, but they're weak, as you can see.
They're a paper tiger.
Yeah,
Well, they are making a little bit of a mess.
yeah. You couldn't call them an empire.
and dus was Constantinople.
Now, who would you say are Roimi? Who's Malchus Roimi?
Okay, so this is, I know the Yeshiva Shuvelt says that it's America, but
It depends on how it fits in to the story.
yeah, right.
That's
But,
adaptable.
but
Adaptable.
it just doesn't fit. It doesn't fit
Christian.
because America actually supports Torah.
That's right. America does.
Jan Terwelig had de ganze ding nog.
So if they're Roimi, they'll be able to say, "What are you talking about?" We
Yeah.
supported her. That's right. We gave
Also,
them
but how long?
education money and security
How
money.
long does it support Torah? Not so many years.
Okay, so these are as we said, Mashiach will come and we'll see all these, and it's going to be very funny because we're going to be standing there and we're going to see the timing back and forth. Like, hey, that's not the good. The Gemara says you're going to say something else. You're not allowed to say this. The Gemara said this. Like, we're going to, Jews. We're always telling them what they're supposed to be saying. So we'll see what happens. It will be very interesting. We should all be zoiche to see that. Okay. Zok the Gemara weiter.
So no country got compared to the lion? Only the Jews get compared to the lion?
Babel compared to the lion.
Oh.
Okay, Zok the Gemara. So let's see what happened over here. So this is what they would tell Rabbi Yisrael. You have tinus to us that we didn't keep the Torah. I don't think it's a good taina. What did you give us the Torah and we refused it? What type of taina is that? That's not true because Baruch Hu did offer it to them. How could they say it wasn't offered to them? Right? So we learn from there, and there's another pasuk in Habakkuk that says similar, like ka mitema and yavai, and it mentions pardon over there. Rashi says, "My boy b'seir, my boy b'paran." What type of visitors that HaKadosh Baruch Hu have in Seir, b'nei Esav, and Paran, which I think referring to Persia. Amar Rabbi Yochanan Malamed. No, pardon is the Arabs. Amar Rabbi Yochanan Malamed teaches us shechzira HaKadosh Baruch Hu al kol uma v'loshan. HaKadosh Baruch Hu went to every nation and to every language, v'loi kablua, and they went out. They refused to be makabel the Torah. Achabayt shel Yisrael v'kablua. Right, we know the famous medrash. They each asked HaKadosh Baruch Hu, what does it say in the Torah? And HaKadosh Baruch Hu picked a law that they objected to, and they rejected the Torah. So what type of time is the Romans going to say he didn't offer to us? Elahachi Amri. This is what the Romans are going to say. Plum kibal nua v'loy kamnua. We didn't keep the Torah, but we weren't makabel it. So we didn't violate and renege on that commitment. So how could you have time to stuff? But this is what's going to undo them. This is good for their problem. The time is why weren't you makabel the Torah? This is what the Kodesh Baruch, they're going to say to Kodesh Baruch again. So what is their taina? Right? You can't say that we weren't makabel the Torah, so you shouldn't punish us. That's a tefillah itself. So this is what the ultimate taina is. Rebbeinu Shalom don't have tainas in us that we didn't accept the Torah and Klal Yisrael did. Klum kafisa aleinu har kegigis v'loy kabanu k'moish Yisrael. You didn't give the Jews a choice. So you're telling me it's a big deal that they were makabel the Torah? If you would have forced us the way you forced them, we would have also been makabel the Torah. The Romans didn't know the measures. The Chsiv, by Yisiyatsu, Besachti Sahar, they are running the mountain. The Omer Avdimi Bar Chama, Melamed Shekafa HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Har, Kigigis Al Yisrael. Hashem put a mountain on top of them like a gigas. What is a gigas? Like a barrel? Like a what? Like a
overturned garbage.
the Omer them and told him, Im Atem Mekabel Musatayr, Mutav, it will be very good for you. Vimlav Shom Tehei Kvaratzchem, you are going to be buried right here. So you see, Klal Yisrael was forced. So the Romans said, if we would have been forced, maybe we would have been Mekabel the Torah. Well, that Amalem HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Harishonos Yashmiunu. The earliers will tell us the answer. In other words, the Zayin mitzvahs b'nei Noach that were given to you. Let's see how you dealt with them, and then we'll see what's going on. Shenama v'rishonis yashmienu sheva mitzvah shekibaltem. You did get the 7 mitzvahs b'nei Noach. How did you fare with those? Heichen kayamtem. How were you mekayim? You were mekayim. You did Avoda Zara. You did all the various other Sheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach. So you have times you didn't get the Torah. You didn't deserve the Torah. If you take care of what you have, so then I'll give you more. But you don't take care of what you have, I'm not going to give you more. That's a very good discussion. We'll have that discussion soon. There's a big shadow here. They're showing them if you're allowed to teach a guy Torah, if you're allowed to teach him the 7 mitzvahs there. Well, we're going to get to that. It's a very good point. How do you know the Goyim Taka did not keep the 7 mitzvahs b'noach? To tell you, Rabbi Yosef, Omad v'yimoided aretz, and then it says Ra Viter Goyim. Hashem saw the Viter Goyim. What does that mean? Vayater Goyim. So Zog to Gemara, my Ra, what did HaKadosh Baruch Hu see? Ra Zayin Mitzvah Shekiblu Alein B'nei Noach. Hashem saw the 7 mitzvahs B'nei Noach that the Goyim were also makabel upon themselves, V'loi Kaimu, and they did not fulfill them. Kivan Shaloi Kaimum, since they were not makayim them, listen to this. Omad V'hitiron Lahen. Since the Goyim were not makayim the 7 mitzvahs B'nei Noach, HaKadosh Baruch Hu was matter all of the restrictions and the prohibitions in the Sheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach for them. Furthermore, you tell me by violating those mitzvahs they benefited. Now they are no longer obliged and bound by the Sheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach. They benefited by rebelling against the Kodesh Baruch. Amar Mar Barei de Ravina, to teach us, Loimar, to teach us she'af alpi she'mekayim oison, even though they would, since they don't have it anymore. Even though they would be mekayim, the Sheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach, ein mekabel malay and socher, they don't get schar. So Zok Rashi, haTorah zu loytei vasami. The fact that they're no longer mitzvah in the Sheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach is not for their benefit. El she'ein mitzuyin lakaimon, mitzvah lakaimon, they're not mitzvah anymore, and therefore if you mikaimu lo yikablu socher. If you're not mitzvah v'oisa, you don't get schar. A guy who learns Torah, he's like a kohen gadol. So this is where they ask, what do you mean like a kohen gadol? A guy is not allowed to learn Torah. Torah is allowed to learn the Sheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach. Talmud Loimer asher yasa oisam ha'adam v'chai b'hem. It says ha'adam v'chai b'hem. Kohanim levim l'shel lo nemar. It doesn't say in the Torah asher yasa oisam Kohanim Levim v'Yisrael v'chai b'hem. It says ha'adam, lo nemar el ha'adam, which is referring to all mankind. Ha'lamadata, what do you see from here? Shafilu oivit kechavim v'yosek b'Torah. A guy who's osek b'Torah, hareyu kekohen gadol. He's also like a kohen gadol. El aloymalach she'ein mekablim alein schar k'mitzvah v'oisa. Yes, they get a mitzvah for learning what they need to learn, but they don't get schar like a mitzvah v'oisa. Elachami she'enoi mitzvah v'oisa. Damar b'chnina gadol ha-mitzvah v'oisa yoser mi she'enoi mitzvah v'oisa. So let's stop for a second, because first of all, we all know the famous shtickle from our Meir Shapiro. We're about to get to the parish of Chukas. What does it say there? Adam kiyamus ba'oil, atem kriyim adam, and goyim are not kriyim adam. And that's why there's no tumas mace by a goy. So you see the word adam only refers to Klal Yisrael, and it doesn't refer to goyim. So how come the Gemara is being medayik from the fact that it says asher yasayim ha'adam v'chayim that it is referring to goyim? Zok the Helga Toisus Kayanim v'Elohim v'Yisraelim lo nemer lo adam mashma hacha doiv tkechavim nami kriyin adam v'tema. The Amar Ba'almo the ain't kiri out tkechavim metamin ba'oil. V'shum desiv adam kiyamas ba'oil. Atem krim adam desiv etein shayni shayn marisi adam atem krim adam lo tkechavim krim adam. So how can you say that adam is referring to a guy? Like my Rebbe Tam, the yesh chalak between adam la ha adam. Adam is only referring to a yid, but ha adam is referring to mankind or people kind. V'loy kasha. It's not shver from the next pasuk. The chsiv gabechirim ve'ata ben adam v'loy kale. So there, so Torah says when the Navi or the Torah is using adam to diminish somebody, you're just a human, you're not a kale. That there it would be referring to anybody. The only time adam is referring to Klal Yisrael is when adam is being used as a mila. Okay, Gavalti. Now Duvi asked the question. What do you mean a guy is not supposed to learn Torah? Is a guy supposed to learn the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nei So Zaktoizu Shafil Oiv T'Cham V'Oisik B'Torah Pirish the Sheva Mitzvah Shalahem. They have a mitzvah to learn the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nei Dilu B'Shar Mitzvahs Arminim Sanhedrin Perik Dal Misais Oiv Lilim Ha'Oisik B'Torah is Chayiv Misa. So at the end of the day, there's a big shayla of the Rishonim. So a guy has a mitzvah to learn the Sheva Mitzvah B'nei, but is there a mitzvah to teach a guy the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nei? There are people who hold that it's usher. There are people who hold a guy could learn it, but he shouldn't teach him. There are people who hold that it's mutter, and then there are Lubavitchers who hold that it's a mitzvah to teach Torah to Bnei Noach, and there's a sheet in the Rishonim as well that says that there's a mitzvah to teach the goyim the Sheva Mitzvah Bnei Noach. Okay, we will stop here, and Be'ez Hashem we will continue on Shabbos and then on Sunday. And we will zeiche to finish the Masechta of Avoda Zara, like we were zeiche to finish other Masechtas. The Rebbe shall help that by the time we finish Masechta of Avoda Zara, there should be no more Avoda Zara in the world. We should have Mashiach, and Persia should be destroyed. Whatever's got to get done, let it get done already. So we shouldn't have to suffer from Chavel Mashiach. We should be yotze with the difficult Gemaras that we had in Shavuos.
Oh man, okay.
I just wanted to ask Dave a question about empires. Is it that they managed the country, or they had cultural influence over so many countries? What creates an empire?
It's both. When they conquer countries, they transfer their influence to those countries. So
they transfer the wealth away from those countries.
Right.
It's empire.
So yeah. So the Persian Empire hasn't been heard from since Alexander the Great till recently, and I wouldn't call them an empire. Okay, so they controlled a few, tin pot dictators in would you call Yemen a vassal of Yemen is garnished. People, they don't have enough food to eat, but they buy weapons. But they're a nothing country, and so is Lebanon, and so is Syria. They're nothing, and you see how they were conquered. Lebanon, overnight with the pagers, and Syria fell in a few days later. You can't call that an empire.
Or there had to be a bloody fight over it. That's what creates an empire.
No, an empire. The Roman Empire, the Greek Empire. Those are empires. Okay.
So how does British was called an empire?
And they were also, because they controlled all the oceans. They had the biggest navy, and they owned India, and it was an empire. It was a real empire, and it lasted hundreds of years.
Is America considered an empire?
It kind of, the lefties call it an empire, but the United States, there are a lot of isolationists in the United States. They never wanted to get into the Second World War. After the Second World War, they became, they were dragged kicking and screaming into the empire realm. They didn't want to.
Now as well, there's a huge faction even of Republicans that do not want Trump to get involved.
Right.
But they will be. They have that's America.
Yeah, since World War II, they were kind of forced, into it, and
They're
they
looked at as the world's policemen.
yeah, so they don't want to be the world's policemen, but they're forced into it. They want to stabilize the world. That's the idea. They need stability. They want to do business with the world. Okay, it's all about the mighty dollar. Okay, they want to sell their goods everywhere, and their airplanes and everything that the U.S. produces, high tech and everything.
So they're
So
economically driven. What was the driving force then behind Persia and Rome? It wasn't
also
economics.
economics. It's all about It's all about
It's
the
So
dollar.
it's
almighty,
not
almighty.
religious. So it's the
Yeah, the almighty dollar,
so it's
right?
not Avoda Zara then. It wasn't their of they wanted to spread their theology
And
around the world.
their theology is it's a multiverse of idols. So pick your own idol that you want to worship. But they didn't care which one. They wanted control over everything so they can bring the gold and silver back home. The armies conquered so they can, so they can make money. That's Rome, and the same thing with Greece, same thing with Persia.
So
The
the
more you can,
destruction of the
it's like
Beis
a
Hamikdash, from their perspective, the destruction of the Beis Hamikdash was just to get their hands on the gold and
no.
silver of the Beis
Okay, no,
Hamikdash.
they wanted to dominate culturally as well. Okay, and he was a huge prize. The Beis Hamikdash was a massive prize because it was like it was explained, it's the most beautiful building in the world at the time, second Beis Hamikdash. So it was, if you and at the time also it was called Judea. It wasn't called Israel at the time, but it had a strong army. It took years for the Romans to conquer Eretz Israel. You read Josephus, uh, you'll see it took many, many years. He has a book called The Jewish Wars. Okay, it's a fascinating read. And it took many years until they got to the point. They worked their way down from the north of Eretz Yisrael, and they conquered city by city by city. But there's like a story in every city, uh, and he describes himself, Josephus, how he was conquered and how he switched sides, and he wrote the history of the Roman conquest. It's fantastic. You can't believe
The winner
everything.
gets to write the history book.
What's that?
The winner gets to write the history books.
True. You can't believe everything you read there, but anything that makes himself look good, okay, you can dismiss that. But things that,
I think Josephus worked for CNN.
yeah. Anyway, that's the story in a nutshell. It's much more complex than that, but al regalachis, that's what I would say.
All right.